The set of This Morning had always been known for its bright lights, cheerful decor, and the comforting aroma of fresh coffee drifting from behind the cameras. It was the kind of place where guests usually smiled, laughed, and left feeling lighter than when they arrived. But on that crisp autumn morning, the atmosphere was heavy, charged with tension so thick that even the crew whispered instead of chatting. Prince Harry had agreed to appear on the show as part of a promotional tour for his latest charitable project. His foundation had just launched a new mental health initiative, one aimed at providing accessible therapy services to veterans and underprivileged communities. It was a cause close to his heart, one rooted in his own scars and struggles. He was determined to keep the focus on that. But the producers had something else in mind. Sitting across from him, Dermot O'Leary shuffled his notes with an oddly rehearsed calmness. He had been briefed by the higher-ups, who insisted the interview shouldn't just be about Harry's charity work. They wanted headlines. And for that, they needed tension. The cameras rolled. "Welcome back to This Morning," Dermot began, his trademark charm barely masking the edge in his voice. "Joining us now is Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. Harry, good morning." "Good morning," Harry replied with a polite smile, though his eyes darted briefly toward the floor. He had learned, over the years, to sense when an interview was about to take a turn. At first, the questions were smooth, respectful. Harry spoke passionately about his work, his commitment to helping those battling inner demons. He mentioned the stories of ex-soldiers who had written to him, their gratitude filling him with purpose. The audience at home likely nodded along, touched. But then Dermot leaned forward, his tone sharpening. "Harry, some critics say your initiatives are overshadowed by the constant controversies surrounding you and Meghan. Do you think the public struggles to separate your charitable efforts from what many see as drama?" The word drama landed like a stone in water. Harry's jaw tightened. "With respect, Dermot, this isn't about me or my wife. It's about the people who need help. That's where the focus should be." Dermot didn't flinch. "But don't you think, Harry, that stepping away from royal duties, moving to California, and the interviews you've given, well, they've created a narrative. Some say you've traded duty for publicity. Isn't that fair?" The crew stiffened. A production assistant dropped her pen. The tension was undeniable now. Harry's voice dropped lower, steadier, but his eyes flared. "I did what was necessary to protect my family. If people choose to misunderstand that, it's their choice. But I won't apologize for putting my wife and children first." Dermot pressed harder. "So, you don't regret walking away from the monarchy? Not even with the criticism, the rift with your brother, the late Queen's disappointment?" Harry's hand curled into a fist on his lap. He took a deep breath, visibly struggling to keep his composure. "Dermot, with all due respect, I came here to talk about saving lives. About veterans on the brink. About mental health resources. Not to rehash personal pain for your ratings." The audience in the studio murmured. The energy had shifted from curiosity to discomfort. Dermot's smile faltered. He had pushed many guests before, but rarely had he seen one fight back so directly. Still, he pressed on. "Harry, viewers deserve honesty. Don't you think they have a right to know if your actions have hurt the very institution your grandmother dedicated her life to?" Harry snapped. His voice rose, echoing off the set walls. "What the public deserves is the truth about how damaging silence can be. About the cost of neglecting mental health. About soldiers who've lost everything while we sit here debating royal gossip. That's what matters, not whether I followed a centuries-old script written for a life I never chose." Gasps filled the studio. Dermot blinked, clearly rattled, but before he could recover, Harry stood up. His microphone cord yanked against the table, sending Dermot's cue cards fluttering to the floor. "I won't be used for spectacle," Harry declared, his voice trembling with anger. "If this show can't respect why I'm here, then I won't stay." For a split second, the world seemed frozen, the cameras, the crew, the audience. Then chaos erupted. Producers rushed forward, Dermot tried to speak over the noise, and Harry tore off his mic, handing it to a stunned floor manager. Within seconds, the Duke of Sussex was striding off the set, his face flushed, his hands shaking with fury. Dermot sat in stunned silence, staring at the abandoned chair. He cleared his throat, trying to salvage the segment, but it was already too late. The broadcast had captured everything, the sharp words, the anger, the walk-off. Social media was about to explode. And in that moment, the story of Harry's charity disappeared into the background, overshadowed once again by headlines he had tried desperately to avoid. But for Harry, it wasn't over. He knew the cameras had only caught a fraction of the storm. Behind the scenes, things were about to get even messier. The moment Prince Harry left the set, the corridors of the ITV studios buzzed with frantic energy. Producers scurried with headsets pressed tightly to their ears, barking instructions, while assistants whispered in hushed, nervous tones. No one had expected it to go that far. Guests had stormed off before, but this was different. This was Prince Harry. Outside, Harry moved quickly, his polished shoes striking the tiled floor with a sharp rhythm. He ignored the stares of crew members who paused in their tracks, unsure whether to greet him or step aside. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. He wasn't just angry, he was hurt. Once again, the very thing he wanted to avoid had swallowed him whole. A security officer opened the side door for him. Cameras from waiting paparazzi flashed instantly, like lightning bolts in a summer storm. Harry, what happened inside? One shouted. Did Dermot insult Meghan? Yelled another. Harry shielded his face, muttering under his breath as he slid into the waiting car. The door slammed, shutting out the chaos but not the turmoil swirling inside his mind. Back in the studio, Dermot O'Leary was attempting damage control. His usual smoothness faltered as he turned back to the audience. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was, Prince Harry, he said awkwardly, tugging at his jacket sleeve. Clearly some strong feelings there. We'll be right back after this short break. But the damage was done. Clips of the confrontation had already been snatched by viewers recording at home. Within minutes, hashtags like #HarryStorms and #DermotVsHarry began trending across social media platforms. Twitter boiled with opinions, some defending Harry's passion, others accusing him of arrogance. Good for him, one user posted. He stood up for his cause. Dermot was fishing for drama. Another wrote, Prince Harry can't take a tough question. Always the victim. By the time Meghan saw the clip on her phone in California, the video had racked up millions of views. She sat at their Montecito kitchen island, a half-finished cup of tea cooling beside her. Archie and Lilibet's laughter echoed faintly from the garden, but Meghan's focus was locked on the screen. Her husband's face, angry, pained, determined, filled the frame. She knew that look. It was the same expression he wore when he spoke about his mother. When the weight of the world pressed down on him. Meghan pressed her lips together, sighing deeply. She typed a message, call me when you can. Don't let them get to you. I'm proud of you. Meanwhile, Harry sat in silence as his car drove through London. His phone buzzed relentlessly, calls from his team, texts from friends, even messages from unknown numbers that somehow always found their way to him. He ignored them all, staring out the window at the grey city streets. The interview had been meant to spotlight his foundation. Veterans were waiting, counting on him. Yet, once again, the noise had drowned out the message. Finally, his phone buzzed with Meghan's name. He answered immediately. Meg, he said, his voice breaking with exhaustion. I saw it, she replied softly. Are you okay? Harry let out a humorless laugh. I wanted to talk about saving lives, and all he cared about was the crown. I shouldn't have lost my temper, but, God, I'm so tired of this. You didn't lose your temper, Meghan said firmly. You defended yourself. And you defended the cause. People will see that. Will they? Harry whispered. Or will they just see another, angry prince, headline? There was a pause. Then Meghan said, come home, Harry. You don't need to keep proving yourself to people who don't want to listen. Come home to where you're needed. Her words settled over him like a bomb. For the first time that day, Harry closed his eyes and breathed deeply. But the world outside wasn't ready to move on. By evening, every major news outlet carried the story. The Daily Mail plastered its front page with, Harry explodes on live TV. Meanwhile, sympathetic outlets highlighted his mission, writing, Harry walks out after interview turns to gossip instead of charity. ITV released a carefully worded statement, we regret the way this morning's interview unfolded. Prince Harry's charitable work remains deeply important, and we apologize if the discussion strayed from its intended purpose. But Dermot O'Leary, never one to back down, spoke to a journalist later that day. I was just doing my job. The public deserves answers. If Harry can't handle tough questions, maybe he shouldn't do interviews. The words reignited the fire. 2 days later, Harry stood before a packed hall in Manchester, addressing an audience of veterans and their families. The media storm had followed him here, but inside this room, the atmosphere was different. He spoke with raw honesty. I know some of you have seen what happened on television. I lost my cool. I let frustration get the better of me. But I hope you understand, it's not about me, or the noise around me. It's about you. About the men and women who've served, who've sacrificed, who now fight battles the world can't always see. That's why I'm here. That's why I'll always be here. The crowd erupted in applause, some standing, some wiping tears. Harry's voice cracked as he finished. You are the reason I fight. And no amount of gossip, no headline, will ever change that. For once, the applause drowned out the noise of scandal. That night, back in his hotel room, Harry sat by the window, staring at the twinkling city lights. His phone buzzed with another message from Meghan. You reminded them who you really are today. That's what matters. Harry allowed himself a small smile. For all the storms swirling outside, he knew one thing with certainty: his fight wasn't for approval, nor for the crown. It was for those voices often unheard. And even if the world tried to silence him with controversy, he would keep speaking. Because silence, as he had learned all too well, was the most dangerous enemy of all.